welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya master Anne-Marie Young. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And today we have a return visitor. Bob Martin was on the show. I'm not quite sure exactly when it was. I'm thinking it was about a year or two ago with me and Jody Lynn. And he's returning today to do a show with me and Anne-Marie. And we're kind of chatting about what the show's going to be about. We're really not sure, so we're going to kind of wing it here. We're just going to start off by saying, Bob, welcome back, and how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here, and looking for my daily dose of happy.
That's always a good thing to look for. Yeah, we like to look for that every time as well. Listeners who are watching video as well will notice that the video layout is different. We're getting used to that ourselves. StreamYard has apparently changed everything around, and I'm trying to figure out how the thing works. But at least the audio works, so that's really the main thing at this point. And Anne-Marie is also dealing with her. This is like technology day. Anne-Marie's dealing with some tech issues at her end. We're dealing with the tech, involved with StreamYard. So, as so often happens here on the show, things happen. I mean, that's one of the ways that that it's a legitimate art. What's the word that they use today? Authentic. That's the word. It's the authentic show, right? So that's how we're doing authentic stuff today. Yeah. So, and is everything settling down there, Anne-Marie? I hope it is.
I think so. I've got my fingers crossed.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, this is kind of like par for the course for the way life has been for me lately. I mean, Bob, I'm not sure where you're located. I'm in the northeastern part of the U.S. We just had 18 inches of snow dumped on us. So that's just kind of like par for what's going on around here right now. But we're gonna keep going. So Bob, first of all, welcome back. And I like I said, I can't remember exactly when we last had you on the show, but you were telling us before you got started that you wrote a book since then.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool stuff. I mean, what inspired that?
Well, it's the third book I've written, and it is my father's story, which was an amazing story. And I guess I would start off by telling you that my mom, her name was Dorothy. She was a real spitfire, 4'11", and just tough as nails. And of course, my folks were Depression era people. I'll tell you how they met. My dad was working, and at that time they had something called the automat. Then Horn and Hardart automats were all over New York City, they were these places where there were these long tables. Everybody sat together, and the walls were lined with little doors that were coin operated. And behind them would either be macaroni and cheese or a sandwich or coleslaw. Some were refrigerated, some were warmed.
Right.
And so my dad would go into the Horn and Hardart, and it was 4 cents for a fatback sandwich and 6 cents for a ham sandwich. And one day, as he tells the story, he went in and he had 8 cents in his hand, which was enough for a ham sandwich and a cup of coffee. And he went over and he's looking at the ham sandwich through the glass door. And over to the left, a couple of things over, is the fatback sandwich. And he just looking at that ham sandwich, and finally he just shakes his head and buys the fatback sandwich, as he did every single day of those days. And he put the 4 pennies in, and he pocketed the 2 cents. And my mother sees this, and she comes over and in her alluring way says, "I like a frugal man."
I love it.
So that's how they met. And when he died, he was to be cremated. He was 97 years old when he passed. And they told her how much it was going to be to rent a casket for the showing. And she goes, no, I will not pay that. And so they laid him out on a slab. I walked in, and there he is, in just no shoes, socks. He had his favorite suit on, but he's laying on a slab, no casket, nothing. And I was just looking at him and go, well, yeah, that's mom. But in that moment, I thought this guy lived for 97 years. You know, when he was born, they barely had indoor plumbing, and he
Mhm.
saw a man walk on the moon.
Right.
And
Mm.
all of that living and all of that wisdom and all of that learning and all of the experiences that he had, all of the history that he held, poof, in one moment, it's just gone.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and he came to America and he started, building his American dream through popcorn stands. He had popcorn stands in amusement parks and in the subway system, and he hired an awful lot of kids, gave a lot of kids their first jobs. And I just thought, for all those kids who remember him, and for me, and it shouldn't all just go away. And so he died 25 years ago, and for 25 years I've been saying somebody needs to tell his story. And so I sat down and I wrote his story. A bit fictionalized, but yes, I wrote his story.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad it inspired you, and the elements of the story that kind of remind us about how pricing has changed. I mean, automat doesn't exist anymore, but if it did
Right.
exist, it would be 4 cents. It'd probably be on the order of 15.60 or something like that.
It's true.
Amazing how things have changed. But one thing that hasn't changed, a couple things haven't changed from that story. One, you very nicely illustrated how much changed during the man's lifetime.
Hmm.
Look at how much has changed in our lifetimes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's going to continue into the next, 50, 100 years. I mean, the
Hmm.
change is just happening at such a rapid rate. It's also what creates huge challenges for people trying to keep up with the changes. I
Hmm.
mean, that's been true for generation after generation. One generation after another has complained about how fast things have moved and so forth.
Right.
Um, but I think one thing that happens as you get older is you realize it really does get faster. I mean, it's like time speeds up or something, and I've
Yeah,
never
yeah,
quite figured out why,
yeah.
but it does.
Well, two things about that. One is back in the 70s, there was a guy named Alvin Toffler who had a very wrote a book, was a breaking book, and it was very popular, and everybody was talking about it. And it was called Future Shock. And he addressed that exact issue about how fast things are changing.
Mm,
And he talks about how every generation always seems to say the younger generation this and the younger generation that, even as far back as Socrates and Plato complained about the younger generation.
mhm,
But he said what is changing though is the rate of change.
Mm.
which is true.
That's the one thing that is changed. Things are changing ever faster.
Right.
And he said that really is hard for us to keep up with, because we evolved to be something that, I mean, hundreds of years would pass by with hardly any change in terms of society and culture, and what works and what doesn't work, and our advances. And today, I mean, things are changing so quickly that we literally are shocked by it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yep. I think that's true. I think there's also a built-in stimulus that goes along with it, though. I think what the stimulus does is that it stimulates us to be able to adapt quicker, and that can be a positive, it can be a negative, depending on how you decide to look at it, but it's almost as if the human race is being trained by its own experience to evolve to the next level, whatever that next level is gonna look like. That's the way I look at it anyway.
I would agree with you if evolution changed at an ever increasing rate, but I don't think it does. I think that we're basically the same animal that was a hunter gatherer for like 1.7 million years, and we're just not. Look, put it this way: when we lived in the forest, um, fat, salt, sugar, those were very rare commodities. And
Mm.
so we evolved to have cravings for fat and sugar and salt. But now, today, you get more of that stuff in a McDonald's Happy Meal than you would have got in a month in the forest. And
Mm.
so, is it any wonder that we have an epidemic of obesity?
Mm.
I mean, our body is designed to crave fat. And so, when it's easily available, it doesn't work. So, in teaching meditation, I see the effect of the rapidly changing world on, my students' minds. And it's an awful lot of anxiety and an awful lot of not knowing in an uncomfortable way.
No, definitely a lot of anxiety, and that of course, anxiety's been around pretty much since the beginning of time, as far as I
Hmm.
know. I mean, it's not
Hmm.
like it's a new thing.
Hmm.
It's just that it's taken a different turn than it had taken for past generations, but the anxiety is pretty much the same kind of thing. The
Hmm.
thing that I always notice about is particularly the last 10 years or so, 13 years from doing this podcast, the thing I keep noticing is anxiety and the stresses that go along with all the stuff that we experience and learn from and so forth. They do lead to learning. And it like for instance, one of the themes that pops up constantly here on the program is we'll get visits from people like yourself who have learned stuff along the way. They usually they went through some kind of a crash and burn, some kind of a crisis. Can be pretty serious, it could be not so serious, but it was serious for them. That's the most important thing. And then they came out the other side and they realized that they learned some stuff from it, and then they wanted to share it with the world. And what the first time I was presented with that idea, I kind of rejected it because it was one of my other co-hosts, Joel Elston, who told me about it for the first time. And what he said was it was the best thing ever happened to him. He didn't want to go through it again, but it was
Hmm.
the best thing that ever happened to him. And at first I rejected it, but over time, having been exposed to it over and over and over again from so many guests, I've come to realize it's actually a good thing. I mean, it's not good. It's not fun going through nasty
Hmm.
stuff when it happens. But nevertheless, we learn so much from it. We do most of our learning, most of our growing, going through these high anxiety periods.
Hmm.
So I don't look at anxiety the way I used to. I just don't think of it the same way.
No, I agree with you. When you have situations like that, but here I think is something that we need to differentiate. Um, I mean, the whole anxiety, the fight, flight, freeze response that we have, to danger, uh, was designed to keep us alive and to keep us healthy, but it evolved when we were being attacked by a tiger, being attacked by a snake, or having some crash and burn situation that's acute and short lived. The difference is that today, the things that cause us anxiety are things like deadlines and getting to work on time, or being caught in traffic, or all kinds of chronic, undifferentiated little stuff. And so we kind of develop a slow burning anxiety that really doesn't call us to be able to burn off the stress. We just kind of like elevates our base level of stress. And that I don't think is so healthy.
Mm.
Well, I think that it's true. Any kind of stress can be very unhealthy. That's one of the things that I picked up from this, though. It isn't the stress itself, it's how we decide to look at it. And that's been true over and over and over again. I mean, we can look at stress and the situations that lead to the stress and feel pretty negative about it, and it's going to be a negative experience. It's going to have all kinds of negative repercussions. It can make you sick, it can kill you, it can have a lot of really nasty side to it. Or depending on how you look at the stressful situation, you can look at it positively. It's amazing how many people look at stressful situations positively and they
Mhm.
thrive as a result of it. So I keep coming back to the same idea in my mind that says it isn't the stress, it's how we decide to look at it.
I agree. Again, I agree with you when it's identifiable. And I can say, oh, I lost my job. So I can identify it, and how I deal with that is going to determine the quality of my experience. But when it's all these little nitty things that are just constantly clawing at you, that really you have no ability to control. It's just, again, it's things like being to work on time and having deadlines and being controlled by the clock and all that, paying the rent or having prices go up, and these constant kind of gnawing, chronic, undifferentiated little stuff.
Mhm.
Trying to find a way to deal with that on a daily basis is truly a skill that needs to be developed.
I think you're true. Well, let's bring Anne Marie in on this one because we've both kind of sketched out where we think about it. Anne Marie, what are you thinking about this?
As you're talking, I'm just thinking, for me, I always find that if I'm anxious, it's because I'm focusing on the next thing or the next thing or something that's out of my control. And I find it sometimes very difficult to be in that moment. And once I pull myself back into the moment and do some breathing, usually I find anxiety and stress does calm. Sometimes there's just too many triggers, but I do find my mind's always, because like you say, we're so busy, and I'm always like thinking I've got to finish this, and then I've got to go and get the kids, and then I've got to do their dinner, and then I've got to take them to dance, and then I've got to do this. And it's just like, no, come back to now, because I can't do any of that in this moment. Just breathe. So I do find it's focusing on things that aren't happening now.
So in other words, both.
Pretty much.
You basically just covered both of our positions. That's pretty good.
There you go. I like sun fence.
Well, that also actually summarizes your role in the show really nicely because I don't know if I told you, Bob, Anne Marie is a former listener of the show who became a co-host a few years ago. And as a result, she brings the listener's perspective, which I love. It's one of the things that I lean into the most. Plus, I just love talking with her. But when she brings that listener perspective, it reminds me, okay, it's more than just what you're thinking about, Walt. It's more than even what your guest is thinking about. It's what your listeners are thinking about. And I love that part. So for what it's worth, that's what she's bringing to the table here. Getting back to what you were talking about, though, with your father's story and how you turned it into a book. First of all, congratulations for doing that. That's a project in itself. Just writing a book is, and then making it about family. That's also a project because now you have all the stuff about family that's involved in it. I mean, you got two things going on at the same time that are pretty challenging. But what do you think was the most difficult, and what was the most rewarding part of the whole process?
Well, the family, I didn't find anything like emotionally difficult in terms of the storytelling and the like. What is difficult in putting together a novel that stretches over 100 years, 4 generations, and a whole, bevy of characters is making sure that the timeline stays accurate. Because the years and like, for example, one of the characters, Jack, if I go back and I figure the math of the years, he was a private investigator, but according to the years and the timeline, he was 7 years old.
That's a challenge, yeah.
So if I adjust the timeline for him, now I have to go back and adjust the timeline for 25 other things. So
right.
Keeping all of that straight was certainly a challenge. But I was this was a labor of love, and I found that writing the first draft without getting into the details and the grammar and all that stuff, it just flowed out of me. I had it down 78,000 words, 253 pages in about 5 months.
Wow. Okay, so you were moving along pretty good. Had a good
Yeah.
clip.
Now it's been 1.5 years in revisions.
Yeah, that happens with a book as well. No doubt about that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say probably a fair ratio is to say that for every hour that you spend writing the book, you're going to spend probably 4 to 8 hours editing it.
Right.
Yeah, which is, just be ready for that. For anyone who's thinking about writing a book, that's just part of it.
Yeah. And you always you say, okay, final draft.
Yeah.
No,
No such thing.
no such thing.
The only thing that makes it a final draft is you finally decide, okay, I've had enough. I just need to
Right,
have a stopping point. That's what makes it
right,
the final draft. Not that
right.
it's perfect or that it's exactly ideal to what you had in mind. It's just this is as far as I'm willing to go with it.
Hmm.
Yeah. I remember my first book was also a novel, and I remember I went through, I'm going to say 12 to 14 drafts of it.
Hmm.
For the first 3 drafts is where it got to its full length, and then after that, it was just fixing, 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 fixing,
Right, right.
and it was around draft 11 or 12 that I finally realized, "This isn't going to end until I end it."
Yes. Yeah, yeah. What's that expression? Somebody, I love this expression. Never let perfection be the enemy of the good.
Well, yeah, in fact, that was actually one of the things that I learned the most from it because I was very perfectionistic, and that taught me just how destructive that perfectionism is to me.
Hmm.
I
Mm.
hadn't really realized how much of an effect it was having on me until I did that. Once I realized that, now it didn't mean I had the solution yet, didn't mean I had figured out how to let go of the perfectionism, but I recognized the issue at that point, and it was shortly after that that I started the podcast, which was where I was trying to learn a whole bunch of stuff, including how to let go of that perfectionism, and took me a few years, finally got there to at least some degree. More progress to be made, but, every step forward is progress.
Hmm.
But the fact is, when you go through, something that includes like a perfectionism, some kind of an issue like that, right? It's not like you fix it and it's done. It's
Mm.
an ongoing process. And you made some big progress and you say, wow, I really got this down. And then you find out a year later, well, there was that other part I didn't quite get yet.
That is so true. Things are a process. Um, it's like if you think about your biases,
Mm,
or your prejudices. Let's say, for example, any of the isms, right?
mhm,
So let's say that we're talking about a racism. So I may have, and I may have grown up in, and I may have been imbued with certain ideas about people that don't look like me.
mhm.
And I have those, and they're ingrained in me. And I come to a decision someplace in my life where I say, this is not accurate. This is not helpful. This is not who I am. This isn't consistent with my values. But even with all of that, then I see one of those people, and I say that with big air quotes, on the street, and those sensations and those prejudgments, those biases, they come up. Fortunately, we get to recognize them and be aware of them, and we don't act on them, and they just eventually become background noise, but they don't really go away.
No, they become what a good friend of Anne Marie and mine calls, they become residual dust. They're like
Residual dust.
Yeah.
they're
That's
like
a
the
great one.
leftover stuff that
Mhm.
you worked on, you made a lot of progress on, but it doesn't completely go away. It's like 99% gone away.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you don't run your life on it, and
Mm.
you catch yourself before you let them, come out into the world. And I think that's part of what being civilized is about. It's doesn't We don't become internally perfect, but we
Mm.
become internally manageable.
Mm.
But it's
Yes.
also a good reminder, isn't it, of how far you've come and where you were and where you don't want to go back.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that's the milepost, right? That's
Yeah.
the milestones along the way, because
Hmm.
that's why milestones are so valuable. They help us kind of focus in on, oh, this is how far I've gotten. This is what kind of progress I made. This is where I am in my overall journey.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's like what was someone once said, when you're when you're rowing out, when you're canoeing and you're rowing out to, some distant shore, sometimes it's a good idea to turn around and look behind you and see
Mm.
how far you've come.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. In
Very
fact,
true.
sometimes it's good to actually leave the boat is the best way I can think of to say it, kind of fly above the boat because then you
Mm.
can see the journey. It's hard
Yeah.
to see it when you're in the boat,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
But when you can get that perspective that you get from, flying above it or something like that, then you begin to realize, oh yeah, that this has been a trip.
Mm.
It's been a trip and a half. And in the process of being a trip, it's been something that I've learned from.
Hmm.
There have been times where I said, wow, I'm really stuck and I really wasn't.
Hmm.
But it seemed like it at the time.
Right, right. Didn't the Grateful Dead have a song called "Oh, What a Long Strange
A
Trip
long
It's
strange
Been"?
trip. That's right. And it
Great
continues to be.
title.
Yeah. And very appropriate that was for a number of different reasons. I won't even go there. But so all right, so you wrote the book
Mhm.
and is the book out yet? It hasn't been published.
No, no,
No.
no. Now the book, I'm comfortable that it's good enough. And so I'm in the process of finding an agent
Okay.
now. And as I say, I've had two other books. Both of them were traditionally published, but neither of those publishers are appropriate for this book. So I need to find the right publisher. I have some really, I got some really good news. And talk about your daily dose of happy. I got a real dose of happy the other day. One of the other books I wrote was not a fiction book. It was actually a Eastern Western spiritual Rosetta Stone,
Hmm.
kind of translating some old Chinese Taoist texts into Christian terminology
Okay. Yeah,
to
I
make
think I
that
remember that. Yeah.
accessible. And so it had its run basically, and it's kind of been sitting on the shelf. And then all of a sudden, I get an email from a fella in Hong Kong who is representing commercial publishing, which is like the Random House of Chinese.
Oh,
And he says, "We want to translate your book and do a run of 30,000 and
my goodness.
distribute it to the Chinese diaspora around the world." And I go, "Whoa, where'd that come from?"
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool.
that
I love
is
that.
that is pretty cool.
That's just
Um,
evidence of these things will hit you when they're meant to hit you. And it
that's
may
Mhm.
not
right.
be when you write it, it may not be 10 years after, it could be 20, but when it's meant to be there, it will be
Hmm. And I think what it's funny, I mentioned it to some friends, and they go, "Oh, how lucky are you?" And I think, it didn't have a whole lot to do with luck. It
there.
No.
had to do with that daily grind, and keeping on it. The thousand times I wanted to quit, and I wrote one more blog, or
Right.
I took on one more project, or I made one more contact, and then somehow, somebody talked to somebody who talked to somebody who talked to somebody, and then you know something like this happens.
I'm reminded of commentary that was made by a friend who's a former guest on the show. He wrote a book. It was a law of attraction book. He called it the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read. And he has the exact same philosophy you just laid out. Answering every email, doing a blog post, doing something every day in service of the book. He's been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years, and he sold over 200,000 copies of the book by doing
Mhm,
exactly that.
mhm.
So it shows. I mean, if you want evidence that what Bob is saying is true, yeah, there's the evidence. It actually does work. It actually does pay off.
Mm.
The reason it works is because of the law of large numbers, but you don't really know when those large numbers are going to hit or how they're going to hit or how they're going to play out. The only thing you know is what your daily activity is going to be. And
Right.
you just have to kind of trust that it's going to play out the way it plays out.
The one thing that you can be sure of is if you quit, if you stop, it won't happen.
Yes, that's right. It's 100% guaranteed.
If you want certainty, there's certainty for you.
And that's true for anything. I mean,
Mhm.
we're talking about books, but that's literally true for anything in life. I don't care what kind of a project you're talking about, what kind of a life goal you're talking about, what kind of a problem you're trying to solve. It's true for all of them. But
Mhm.
if there's anything that I've learned more than anything else from doing this program, there are a few things I've learned. One is the value of so many different perspectives, but another is the value of persistence.
Mhm.
Persistence, just persisting and persisting, produces amazing results. And almost every single time, the person who experiences them had no idea they were going to happen,
Right.
which is kind of scary, but it's also the way it actually works.
Mhm. Yes,
It's having that leap of faith, isn't it? And just keep persevering.
Yeah.
right. And it's almost as if the universe is designed in such a way that what you're looking for will show up right after you're about to give up.
Yes.
That's so
You know,
true.
if you're lost and you think, I'm lost, where is this place I'm supposed to be going to? I've tried everything. Well, I'm lost. I'm going to go home. Well, let me go one more block. And that's when you find it.
And I'll even modify it a little bit by
Uh-huh.
saying it's not always that one great big thing that you're hoping is going to happen. What often happens is, but just by going that one extra mile, you experience a turn, a twist in the road that you didn't know was going to come. And it's not
Mhm.
necessarily something that produces something big right in the moment, but it sets you up for the next thing that's going to happen. And it's
Right.
important, I think, to bring that out because we have a tendency as humans, we want, we're looking for that final end destination. So if I go one extra mile and the final destination doesn't show up, I say, well, it didn't really work. But it did work. What happened was in that last mile, something changed, something shifted. And so it's incumbent upon us in those moments to recognize what shifted rather than did we get to the end result.
Yeah. 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 It's like the thing with the book here. So I've written this book now. The first novel I wrote, I think it was a good novel, but it wasn't, it wasn't going to win a Pulitzer Prize. The second book I've written, the nonfiction book, I think is helpful for many people, and it has helped many people, and that's
Mhm.
great. But I learned a lot about the publishing business, and I learned a lot about how to put a book together and how to organize it, and the like. And so all of that was a process. So now I've written a book that I think actually is extremely marketable and is very mainline and has a huge potential audience. Now I need to get it, to an agent. And just as I'm about to start that process, coming out of left field is this Chinese translation and the distribution of a book of mine to a very large population, which then I can take that information and put it in my query letter to the agents
Yeah.
saying I've been published and I've also been this and that. And that's going to make me more attractive to them taking me on as a client. And so it just came in almost like a merging lane on a highway.
Mm.
The timing is just perfect. And again, you never know how these things are going to work out.
Don't you love it when they pop along?
Right.
Well, that's one of the things that makes life so interesting.
Hmm.
Waiting to see what the next thing is going to be.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
also part of, I think, what that challenge we were talking earlier about the challenges that are involved with anxiety and stress and so forth. That's one of the challenges where anxiety and stress are concerned. How are we going to not just navigate through them, but how are we going to look at them? How are we going to look at what happens during them? Because to the extent that we can focus on gaining value from an experience rather than getting frustrated by the experience, that's where the growth happens. That's where the progress happens. And honestly, I think that's what makes life worthwhile.
Right. And the other side of it, the other skill that I think is so important is patience. and allowing things to develop until they have matured. And I don't, I mean that kind of metaphorically. Like my career as a writer had to mature at its own speed.
Mhm.
And if I was impatient, I probably would have given up by now. So I know that my wife is a very much of a type A personality, and she wants to get the task done and get it off her desk. That's the most important thing.
Mhm.
Whereas often I'll just say, I don't feel like we need to deal with that yet. You know, my mentor, Master Watching Ni, who I studied under for so many years, he said that the secret to the mastery of life is to allow things to develop to their own state of readiness, and to accomplish what you want to accomplish with the least amount of effort possible, the least amount of effort possible. So getting things like, if you pull a apple off a tree before it's ripe, you got to struggle and jerk it and twist it, and it's sour. And if you wait too long, it drops and rots. But if you pick it just right, it comes off with very little effort and it's sweet. And having the patience to wait for the apple to mature, and put your own desire to have the apple on hold for a little bit, but not waiting so long that you lose the opportunity. I guess that's what we call wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Well, certainly one form of wisdom. I would submit that another form of wisdom is deciding whether or not the track you're on is really the track you want to be on.
Ah, oh, yeah. Big one,
Right?
big one.
Because that can work either way. I mean, it
Mhm.
can be the right track for you, and you feel like, yeah, this is the right track, and I want to go there. But you could be persisting and persevering on something that you say to yourself, I really don't like this. And that's how burnout happens. That's
Right.
literally how burnout happens.
Oh, yeah. Or just living a life that you don't love. I mean, that's so true. And you're working so it's like you're paddling upstream your whole life.
Right.
Uh, and who wants to live that life?
Well, you get big upper arm muscles, but other than that,
It's true.
you might build the shoulders out. Yeah, keep paddling upstream. They'll do it. It's like one of my other co-hosts. I mentioned it before, Joel Elston. He's a weightlifter, power lifter. He can deadlift 500 pounds. It's incredible to watch him do it.
Wow.
But he's done it long enough now that, I mean, his shoulders are massive. Just because. Now, did he think of that as paddling upstream? Absolutely not. To him, that's like, that's nirvana, going to the gym every day. If he can't go to the gym to do some powerlifting, he's had a bad day. And
Mhm.
so he's always going every single day. I don't care what the weather is. I don't care what's going on in his life. It always begins with him going to the gym, because that's where he gets his energy. And that, to me, I think is the core of it. Where do you get your energy from? Are
Mhm.
you
And that's
energized by
consistency.
what's that, Anne Marie?
Sorry, I said that's a consistency as well
It is.
that we
Yeah.
refer to. Because he's
And
getting all those results with all that wonderful training,
yeah.
and he's getting built.
But most of all, he's identified that it's the passion, that it's something that he loves,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
so important to him. And the nice thing about passions are they're not hard to identify once you're experiencing them, because they feel good. Like once you start doing something that you're passionate about, you can do it all day. Probably the
Mm.
hardest part is ripping yourself away from it.
Mhm.
So it's very easy to identify when you're passionate about something. The hard thing, and I know this from personal experience, is when you're doing something every day that you're not passionate about, and then you're trying to figure out why you keep doing it, and yet you know that persistence pays off, and you know that perseverance pays off, and so forth, and so you keep going. And it's like a little trap that's built in there, simply because you haven't taken the time to ask yourself, is this what I really love?
Mhm.
Is this what I really want to be doing with my life?
That's exactly what I was thinking. You just get so lost in the mundane. You don't think about, what do I value? What do I love doing? What about me? It's questions we should ask ourselves more often.
Oh,
It is, and a lot of my students, um, have it in their minds that that question is the lesser important question. The more important question is, what should I be doing?
Ugh,
Or, and
ugh.
all of these, they're shitting on themselves all the time, but
Yeah.
all of these things that have been forced down their throat in terms of, I'm telling you what your values are, and this is the
Mm,
kind of thing you should be doing. Or people that are maintaining friendships with toxic people, because they feel that they have some obligation to maintain the friendship, or taking care of a dependent, not literally dependent, but some people are just have this dependency
Mhm.
disorder where
mm,
they make themselves dependent, and they're like vampires and they suck your blood.
right. Yeah.
And people who feel like, I can't not take care of them, I can't not let them go, what will happen to them? And so they bleed themselves dry, trying to accomplish something which, again, is and they're aware of the question, what makes me happy? They've just simply decided that that's a secondary issue to some other issue,
Yeah.
and that's sad.
Well, it's sad from my perspective because I've been there and I know what it's like to go through that. But by the same token, they're still going through it. And if you're still going through it, this was one of the hardest ones for me to come to grips with, but I finally did. When you're going through it, even if it's miserable, even if it's painful, even if it's self-destructive, there's a payoff or you wouldn't be doing it. You're
Mm,
getting paid off in some way. It can be very dysfunctional. It can be very unhealthy, but it's still a payoff.
mhm.
And until that payoff becomes not worthwhile, you're not going to change anyway.
That's right.
So what really ends up changing isn't the thing itself, and it isn't the passion about the thing itself. It's whether you decide it's worth it.
Mhm. People will do what they do until the pain of changing becomes less than the pain of staying the same.
Very true.
The old comfort zone, so-called.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, that comfort zone, boy, is that poisonous. There was a time when I thought living in the comfort zone was the best thing in the world. And now it's like, oh, no, thank you. Please. Just ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what Oliver Wendell Holmes had one of my very, very favorite quotes of all time, and it's even what I put on my syllabus at school. Is he says that the simplicity before complexity, I wouldn't give you a fig for. But the simplicity that comes after complexity, I would give my left arm for.
Ooh, that's a
And
great insight.
and yeah, what he's talking to there is about the comfort zone, is that so many people are in a comfort zone that's born of simply not understanding and seeing things in a simple way. Oh, I just like to see things in black and white.
Mhm.
And so there's a simplicity that's there, but it has no value because you don't understand the situation that you're in. But when you delve into things and you take them on and you spend time and effort picking them apart and understanding them deeply and profoundly, you come to a place where things become simple again. But that simplicity has great value
Because you learned.
because you've learned and you've
Right.
synthesized.
Yeah.
It's like, I think of the Dalai Lama. Somebody once asked him, "What is what is your religion?" And he says, "My religion is kindness, and my temple is my heart." Well,
Yeah.
it's simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a simplicity that's born of an entire lifetime of
Right.
training.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me that we live in our lives, and for those of us who believe in multiple lifetimes, we live in multiple lifetimes, basically pursuing different things that we learn from. Because it's how we grow, it's how we expand
Mhm.
ourselves, it's how we contribute to the expansion of all that is, that sort of thing. And in the process, we go through these up and down moments, which is kind of what we've been describing here. The up moment being where we're in the middle of learning something and it's tough and we're challenged and everything's very complex. And then we finally achieved that level of simplicity you're talking about. That's where we
Hmm.
actually learned it. And
Hmm.
then we dive into the next thing.
Hmm.
And so we're constantly riding this series of waves, you know, dive in, learn some more complexity, find the simplicity of it, get some more
Yeah.
complexity, find the simplicity of that. It's just ongoing,
Yeah,
continuous.
yeah. It's like when you're at the top grade of elementary school and you think you're the cat's meow, and then the next year you're at the bottom of middle school.
Yeah, right.
And then you're a senior in high school and you think you got everything by the gonads, and the next year you're a freshman in college,
That's a good example of it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's more of a structural example that we experience.
Mhm,
Mm.
They can also be not quite so structured, but yeah, that kind of, and that happens in careers too. I mean,
mhm.
how often have somebody risen to a particular position in a particular firm doing a particular thing, and then they move someplace else they thought was a step up, and then all of a sudden they're at the bottom again. Like, what the heck happened?
Right, right,
I was at the top of the totem pole. I can't even see the totem pole anymore.
right. Yeah, it's like being a lawyer, especially being a trial lawyer. Amongst lawyers, we all have our reputations, and so so's a good lawyer, so and so's a great lawyer, so and so's not such a great lawyer. But when you think about it, all of those folks have gone through 4 years of college and 3 years of post grad. So they're all pretty extraordinary people, but amongst themselves, they it's silly.
Well, it's also life.
Mhm, it's life. Mhm,
I mean, that's the way life works. One of the big challenges in life is understanding life and understanding what we're dealing with and why we're dealing with it. And
mhm,
I think it's one of the I think I mean the model we just laid out. It's the model of going through complexity, coming to simplicity. Okay,
mhm,
um, that model, it isn't just a single wave that we ride. We're riding multiple waves at any given time. So this particular part of my life is turning into a simplicity, and I'm finally getting some understanding there, while simultaneously this other craziness is going on over there. And then there's a third thing. I mean, it's not just one series; it's a whole series of things all going on at the same time, and that's what we're navigating.
yeah, yeah.
And so
Mhm,
taking that to what we were talking about earlier, where everything seems to be going faster, everything seems to be speeding up. Well, it's no wonder we're getting confused by all the acceleration because we're also multitasking at the same time. We're trying to multitask while the processing is picking up speed. That's going to
Mhm.
throw anybody off.
yeah, sure. Well, if I may go back to something that you mentioned before about rising above and getting out of the boat and looking at the journey
Mm,
itself. So one of the things that most people misunderstand about meditation is they think it's about quieting the mind or finding some kind of internal la la kumbaya peace internally where everything is quiet and calm. And it's really not that at all. But one of the one of the biggest accomplishments when I'm working with my students. Again, I'm just starting in a couple of days. I'll be working with 17 college kids in a meditation class, and right about the third or fourth week of class is when they finally get out of the boat
mm,
and look at it. And the way that I explain it to them is that there is a stream that we can sense exists in ourselves, that let's call it consciousness. There's
mhm.
a stream of consciousness that flows through us.
Yep.
And on that stream are all these sticks and leaves and stuff. Those are our thoughts and the ideas. And it's like we're on a raft on that stream. And if it's a nice, calm stream today, that's great. But tomorrow it might be white water, or there might be a waterfall coming, and we're going on this roller coaster that's life. But if we can, and this is where they discover about the fourth week of the class that they can get out of the boat and get up on the bank, and they don't leave the raft. they still experience the roller coaster of life in one of their ego states, but in this other part of the mind, they're watching themselves go through it. And it's in that other place, that other perspective where they're watching themselves go through the roller coaster, that's where there's a certain stability and a certain consistency and a certain, I guess stability would be the best word, is a sense of stability there, even though you're still experiencing life. And for those that haven't experienced that, it's hard to imagine. But when when it happens, I can say, and I see it in their logs when it happens. Oh, this is what you were talking about,
Mhm.
and it changes their lives forever.
Yeah. Well, what you're
And
describing is one of my favorite parts about doing the show, actually.
mhm.
Because I started the show 13 and a half years ago because I was having all kinds of problems. I needed help. And I really wasn't doing it for listeners. I was doing it for me. And I still do it for me. I mean, I love the listeners. I love my co-hosts, my guests, and all that, but I still do it for me. But nevertheless, while I was working on all this stuff, I ended up talking to a whole bunch of people over time. Literally in the hundreds now, probably close to the thousands. I'm not sure what the exact numbers are. And in the process of talking to all these people, I have been exposed to so many different perspectives from so
Mhm.
many different people. And the thing that to this day still knocks me out is I love the perspectives of people who I agree with, but I learn more from the ones I disagree with. And it both intrigues me and pisses me off in equal measure.
Yeah.
But that's where I really learned perspective, was from that kind of experience.
Mhm.
So I know what you mean, but if you expose yourself to enough different perspectives, you learn pretty quickly how to look at something differently, how to look at it from that 10,000-foot view when you're still in the rowboat,
Mm.
Mhm.
because you're looking at it through other people's eyes.
Mhm.
And that's probably the most valuable skill I've gotten out of doing the podcast.
Yeah, we have something going on in the news these days without getting into pros or cons of it, but it's interesting. A piece of information comes to us. There was this shooting, and we started out having one perspective of somebody was taking a film of it or a camera from
Mhm,
across the street from an angle that didn't reveal very much, and we found ourselves trying to guess about what happened.
mhm,
But then as time go on, we got another angle and another angle and
Mhm.
another angle. And pretty soon you can put all those angles together and you get to a place where you're pretty comfortable. This is what occurred.
yeah.
This is what happened. And so I think life is kind of like that too. As you mentioned, you get all these different perspectives and then you start to feel a certain comfort that I think I'm beginning to understand it now.
Actually, one of the great things about perspectives is that it plays a terrific role in helping people to navigate the current landscape where people are generating fake content. They're generating videos using AI and so forth. And it can be confusing the first, X number of times that you're exposed to that. Like, well, am I seeing something real or not? But when you start getting exposed to the different perspectives on the same event, but first of all, that becomes really hard to, even that out so that it's all generated the same way by some AI or by some, false meme creator or something like that, to get all those perspectives showing the same thing.
Mhm.
And so it starts to give you a sense of, or at least for me anyway, it gives me a sense of calm. Like, okay, if I see enough perspectives, I can actually iron out which ones are the fake ones and which ones are the real ones just by seeing enough of the different perspectives.
Mhm.
I can actually make sense out of what I couldn't make sense out of before.
Mm. But
And
do you
and
also,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry, Barbara, I was just thinking, do you also not think that you see this perspective and this perspective and this perspective and you get very confused and then you're just like, no, I'm just going to bring it back to me
Sure.
and not worry about that perspective. And I find that very
Yeah.
calm. Again, just bringing you back down to your own thing and working it out yourself.
Yeah, but again, what you say is it takes some effort and it takes some work. And what I worry about these days is that people there are many people who say, I don't want to look at the news. I don't want to read the news. It's all fake news. It's all not trustworthy. And it's almost as if they throw the baby out with the bathwater, because if you do take the time to look at the different perspectives, you can come up with a pretty comfortable idea of what you hold to be accurate. And when people have the opportunity to do that work and put out that effort, but don't, because because it's a little bit harder than just having something spoon-fed to you, they start to not trust any information at all, which puts them in a place of real discomfort, I think. And so the idea, I want to be comfortable, so I'm not going to pay any attention to all this stuff, actually winds up being counterproductive, because you become uncomfortable in your lack of knowledge.
Oh, no, I'd say that's actually a good thing what you're describing, because it's the discomfort where we end up deciding to shift something because we're not comfortable. That's the whole point of getting out of the comfort zone. Because when you're in the comfort zone, you don't want to shift anything. That's why it's the comfort zone. Otherwise, there wouldn't be one.
Right.
We think it's comfortable, so we're going to stay there. It's only after a period of time or a series of experiences or events where we finally, perhaps, not always, but we often come to the conclusion, this isn't all that comfortable. I'm not sure why I even want to stay here. Now there are going to be plenty of people who are going to stay in the comfort zone. Don't get me wrong. That's going to be a decision that people make. But when I think about whether or not it's uncomfortable, I think that's actually a good thing, because for those people who have an inclination to want to get out of the comfort zone, that's going to be their motivation to get out, because they don't like it there. It's not a good place to be. This stuff's fascinating. It really is. So anyway, we're hoping that you're able to get the agent that you're looking for to get your book published.
Thank you.
I hope that happens pretty soon. Let us know when it happens, and hopefully by this time next year it's going to be published. That'd be a cool thing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be really good.
From your lips to God's ears.
Oh, well, hey, I don't claim to have that kind of inside knowledge, but if it works, great. I love it. Yeah. And best of luck too with what happens with that Chinese firm. Who knows?
Thanks.
If you're reaching 30,000 people, holy cow!
Yeah.
That's some pretty incredible reach right there. I love that.
Definitely.
Well, it's kind of not symptomatic. Well, it is symptomatic. It's emblematic. I think that's the word I was looking for. It's emblematic of the age we live in, because we're now able to impact so many people that we couldn't impact before. And it's because of the technology, but also because of the opportunities that are available that just weren't available. I mean, can you imagine something like this happening 30 years ago? I mean, seriously.
Trying to remember 30 years ago now. Too busy focusing on what's next.
Yeah, what is next, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
hey, Emery, I always like to come to you at the end.
It's funny when you say 30 years ago, in my mind, I'm thinking 1970s.
Yeah. Which is close to the 50s.
In my mind, it's like 30 years ago would be 1970s, but 30 years ago was 1995.
Yeah, the 90s. Yeah.
Wow.
No, because I was born in the early 70s and I'm still only 28. So I think 30 years is the 70s.
I love it. Emery, I always like to come to you to summarize, because you bring the listener's perspective to the way you summarize. What's your takeaway today? I'm curious.
It's one of the things that Bob said at the very beginning, on when you were writing your story about your dad and how he was here and he was here for so long, but how quick it was and how much changed. And you wanted to just kind of put that down in a book. And something that I do that always brings me back to now and brings me to how lucky we are to be here, is when I walk around a graveyard and I see gravestones and there's people who've been here and they've left, and it's so not permanent. There'll be other people here and we won't be here soon. So I think it's just a case of, it's understanding that and understanding the meaning of your life, what's your purpose, what's your passion, what your values, and all the stuff that we've covered today. But the thing that I did love is do something every day that is your passion, something that you enjoy, even if you're in a job you don't like, and just go to the gym like Joel does. Just go do some baking if you love cooking. Whatever it is, find your passion. Have a bit of joy every day.
Mhm.
I love that. That's
Find your
great.
daily dose of happiness.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, if there's anything I've learned along the way of doing the show, the route to happiness is giving attention to what's important to you. When you do that, the happiness shows up. And we were talking earlier. What was it we were talking about? We were talking about the meditation. You're mentioning, Bob, about how people try to quiet their minds in meditation, and they're really on the wrong track there. I remember the first time that I successfully quieted my mind, and it was not through meditation. It was through doing work that basically improved my self-esteem. That's what quieted the mind.
Mhm.
And I would never have predicted that at the time. Now I look back, I say, well, yeah, of course. But at the time, that would have been the last thing on my mind. I would have been one of those people trying to quiet my mind in meditation because it was so important to quiet my mind. Looking back on it, what I realized is I was just so tired of all that noise. I wanted the noise to go away.
Mm.
Whether it was through meditation or whatever, I didn't really care how I got there. But at the time, I thought I had to do it through meditation. So that's one of my takeaways is you made a great point. Meditation's purpose is not to quiet the mind. However, it's also a great way to develop a lot of the skills that help you to feel better about yourself that serendipitously do help to quiet the mind.
Yes, absolutely. The
Yeah.
goal is not to happen in the mind, but it does happen.
It does. It does.
does.
Yeah. And it's a
It
wonderful
does.
boy. When that mind goes quiet, it's like, oh, thank goodness. It's a relief. It truly is. Well, Bob, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing. I don't remember if the last time you were on, I did this, but for the last few years, I've been doing this little thing where I say, on behalf of those people you've never met and never seen, never will meet, never will see, thank you for what you've been doing because you're making a difference in this world. That continues to be true, and you have 30,000 people in China who are about to experience that directly. So yeah, thank you for what you continue to do. It's a really
Thank
great
you.
thing. Yeah. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.